Good morning, everyone. It is now 10 a.m., so I think we are good to start. Hello and welcome to Libre Canada Books webinar on the South Korean book market. Bienvenue à toutes et à tous. Today's presentation will be given in English and should take about 60 minutes, including some time set aside at the end for your questions. La présentation d'aujourd'hui sera en anglais et devrait durer environ 60 minutes et nous avons prévu du temps à la fin pour répondre à vos questions. Pour accéder à l'interprétation vers le français, cliquez sur l'icône Interprétation au bas de votre écran dans la commande pour la réunion. L'icône ressemble à un globe. Par la suite, sélectionnez la langue de votre choix. For those who do not require interpretation, please leave the interpretation feature off. After the presentation is complete, we'll be taking questions in both languages via the Q&A function, which should be visible on your screen. Feel free to submit your questions throughout the webinar, and we will collect them for the Q&A session at the end. Nous vous invitons à poser vos questions via la fonction questions-réponses. N'hésitez pas à soumettre vos questions tout au long du webinaire. Nous les recueillerons pour la séance de questions qui aura lieu à la fin. If you encounter any problems or have any questions relating to the platform, please message me as the host via the chat function. Et si vous rencontrez des problèmes ou si vous avez des questions au sujet de la plateforme, veuillez m'envoyer un message privé en tant que host. We are very pleased to be hosting today's webinar, providing key insights on the publishing market of South Korea. As the world's 12th largest economy, South Korea is an attractive international market for Canadian publishers, boasting an exciting annual international book fair in the country's capital and a recent Nobel Prize in Literature win. South Korea is a strong player in the Asian Pacific and global publishing industries. I am delighted to introduce today's speaker, Jung Hwang, a literary agent at Shinwon Agency, Korea's first foreign rights agency founded in 1986. Since 2017, she has been representing children's and adult titles from English-speaking and European markets. Welcome, Jung, and thank you for joining us today. I'll turn over the mic to you now so that we can get started.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here today. So, my name is Xian Huang and I'm a literary agent at Shinwon Agency, which is the longest running literary agency in Korea. Et en français, je fais un petit coucou pour les gens qui viennent de Québec. Enchanté. Et I'm really happy to be here and to share a bit about the Korean publishing market with you today. I will share facts, trends, and ideas, and I will try to keep it simple. I hope this session feels more like a conversation than a lecture. So let's dive in. So, why South Korea? First, Korea is the 12th largest economy in the world. It's a small country, but it's already impressive. But more importantly, we love books. Reading and education are part of our culture, even if people don't read much these days. The publishing market is still very active and the government supports it, and Korean publishers are always open to global content. So this is a good time for Canadian publishers to meet Korean readers. And this chart shows how big the cultural content industries are in Korea. So we are talking about games, music, video, and books. Publishing still plays an important role. Even though the gaming industry is very big, books are still very strong, especially in education and culture. And part 1, understanding the Korean publishing market. Now, let's look at the publishing market more closely. In 2023, the total market was around 4.93 trillion Korean won. That's about 4.9 billion Canadian dollars. The biggest sector is education publishing, but for digital content like webtoons, ebooks, and web novels is growing very fast. So Korean kids still study a lot, but we also love reading webtoons in bed. And in 2023, more than 62,000 new books were published. But here's a twist. The average print run is going down, but only 1,000 copies per title. It means publishers are focusing more on niche readers than mass markets. Also, prices are going up, which is not great for readers, but it's mainly because production costs are rising, like the cost of paper. I think it's the same in many countries these days. And there are nearly 80,000 registered publishers in Korea, but only 9,000 actually publish in a book in 2023. Many are small or one-person companies. Some only publish one book, maybe their own memoir or poetry. So in Korea, anyone can become a publisher. Even I could start my own publishing house next month. But we have the challenge now. Fewer Korean adults are reading books. In 2023, only 43% read at least one book. That's the lowest since 1994. Also, the average adult reads only 3.9 books a year. As someone who loves books, actually, it's a bit sad for me. But what is good news is that younger people read more than older people. For example, people in the 20s, about 74% read books, but in the 40s, less than 50%. And also, let me share something very interesting about young readers in Korea because I read an article 2 days ago. Recently, we've seen a big shift in Korea. More young people in their teens and 20s are reading books. So, according to Yes24, which is the biggest online bookstore in Korea, book sales from this age group grew by over 18% last year. It's because reading is now too cool to them. It's something to share on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Poetry is especially very popular because it's very short, emotional, and fits their short form habits. In fact, poetry sales from this group have gone for 6 years in a row. And they are not just buying books, they also spend a lot on book related items like bookmarks or reading stands. Also, what's very interesting is that this generation used to be seen as less literate. But actually, recent OECD data shows they score higher in literacy than older age groups. Actually, I didn't know that either. So, young people in Korea are reading more, spending more, and shaping a new book culture. So, I'm really grateful for that. It gives us hope for a positive future. And the more money people make, the more they read. I think it's a bit fair. It isn't fair, right? But actually, books should be for everyone, but it's a bit sad for that. And the government knows this is a problem, so they created a national reading plan from 2024 to 2028. Actually, this program has started since 28. They want to raise the reading rate to 50% and increase the number of books read per adult to 7.5 a year. With this, let me introduce a unique reading campaign we have in Korea called Reading Marathon. It's quite different from the readathons you might be familiar in Canada. In Korea, participants choose a marathon course like 4,000 kilometers, half or full, and then read books to complete the distance. So one page equals 1 meter. So if you read 5,000 pages, you complete 5 5,000 kilometers. It turns reading into a game-like challenge and is surprisingly motivating. I've never tried before, but I would like to try it this year. It's usually organized by public libraries and local governments, and the main goal is to build reading habits, especially for those who don't usually read. So I know that Canadian readathons often focus on fundraising, where children read books and collect some donations for a good cause. I think both are really wonderful, but the Korean version is more about visualizing personal progress and turning reading into a fun routine. And I thought this could be an interesting example of how different countries promote reading in creative ways. So I just wanted to mention this program. Also, in 2024, as you probably know, Hangang won the Nobel Prize in Literature. This made many people feel proud of Korean literature again. And right after the news, bookstores were so packed. So there were long, long lines everywhere. But now, here's a paradox. The number of publishers is growing, but the number of readers is shrinking. That's because many people start a publishing company but don't actually publish books. Publishing is now used as a tool for branding, marketing, or just personal goals. So, why do we see more and more books in Korea? Well, it's easier than ever to publish. Many people are creating their own books, sometimes just one copy for themselves or their brand. Also, publishers are focusing on more in niche audiences, not the general public. And something I've been noticing is that many Korean publishers are republishing titles that were already published in Korea before. It's because they already know how those books performed in the market. So it's not always chasing something brand new. And also one thing which is really helps is going viral. That really boosts sales everywhere. And books are also used for business or personal branding. And I'd like to share some opportunities for you, Canadian publishers. Here's the number of publications by category. As I mentioned earlier, education takes a big portion of the market. And it's a good news for you. Translated books are still very popular in Korea. In 2023, about 19% of new books were translations. That means one out of every five books is from another language. So Korean publishers love finding new books from all around the world. So what kind of translated books do well in Korea? Let's have a look. You can see that many bestsellers are translations, especially nonfictions, essays, and self-help. And also literary fiction is very well. Korean readers are curious about older books, so we are not that picky for choosing genres actually. So now it's time to talk about Canada. Um, these are some well-known authors in the adult book categories. And especially last year, no, sorry, 2 years ago in 2023, the author Yang Martel visited Korea and he received a lot of attention. Especially Life of Pi is already very well known in Korea as well, so people were so excited to meet him in person. I also got his autograph and took a photo with him. This event also to celebrate the 16th anniversary of Canada and Korea diplomatic relations. So the Canadian stand at the Seoul International Book Fair was one of the largest that year. And there, many Canadian titles were showcased, and I actually recommended some Korean publishers to visit the stand and ended up helping with the Korean translation rights still myself. So if you look at countries like France, they organize a French collective stand at this fair every year. So multiple French publishers attend and meet with Korean publishers in person. So if Canada could create a similar opportunity, I really believe there would be more chances for collaboration and exchange with the Korean market. And now, if you are a publisher working in adult trade, I'd like to share just a few tips. First, Canadian books are English, which means Korean, not only English but also French, but which means Korean publishers can easily review the text. That makes their lectures and decisions faster. Second, it's true that book sales in Korea are currently very slow. Also, the high exchange rate has made publishers more selective when choosing new titles. So when you introduce a book, please make sure to include award information, press reviews, and marketing materials. That really helps a lot. And third, for nonfiction, the author's background can be very important depending on the topic. But just a side note, books by influencers who are only known in your country usually don't work in Korea. Just like you may not know Korean influencers, I think it's the same for us. So these are well-known authors for children's books. And if you're working in a children publishing, here are some thoughts I'd like to share from the Korean market. First, as I mentioned earlier, please always include things like awards, information, press reviews, and marketing plans when you introduce a book. This really helps Korean publishers understand the value of your title. And books about bedtime stories don't usually work well here. It's very simple because we have there so like we already have so many. And next, in Korea, beautiful illustrations are everything. Korean picture books are already known for their visual quality, so books with very simple or flat illustrations often don't get much attention. The art style has to be very standout. But if the book is only pretty and the message isn't clear, it's also very difficult. These days, many Korean schools and reading groups use worksheets or discussion materials along with the picture books. So it's really great when a book includes a short and strong takeaway or life lesson. And also, I know that diversity is a big theme right now, and that's very great. But if the story is too strongly based on one country's context, like books about Canadian indigenous communities, it can be a bit hard to connect here because it's just very different. So, in short, meaningful story, strong message, beautiful art, that's all in Korea. And let's talk about adult trade publishing. Adult trade publishing is the biggest part of the market. More than 6,600 publishers are active in this sector, and the sales are very high. It includes fiction, essays, practical books, a wide range. So there's definitely room for Canadian publishers. For the children's book trade publishing, the children's book sector remains a significant segment with a strong infrastructure. Even though we've been seeing a slight drop in the number of new titles and print quantities in recent years. But now you may have heard about this. As of 2024, Korea's birth rate is 0.75, which is slightly up from 0.72 2 years ago. But still, Korea is the only OECD country with a birth rate below 1.0. In fact, we have the lowest birth rate in the world. For reference, Korea's total population is around 51.68 million. But here's the thing. Although fewer children are being born, many parents now think, if I have only one child, I want to raise them very well. So that means parents are still very willing to invest in good picture books. That's why I'm not that pessimistic about the future of children's publishing in Korea. So for ebook market, ebook distributors are part of the broader publishing distribution sector, but we also have some platforms which are only for ebook, such as Ready Books and Millis Library. Over the past few years, Korean readers have started moving for digital and subscription based on reading. Instead of buying one book at a time, many people now use monthly subscription platforms where they can access a large number of ebooks and audiobooks for a flat fee. This model especially appeals to younger readers and heavy readers who want to explore multiple titles each month. Yeah, this is about ebooks sales share. For audiobook market, audiobooks are still very new in Korea compared to ebooks, but the market is growing step by step. Right now, education and children's books are leading this growth since they are easier to consume in audio format. In the adult audiobook market in Korea, things started out with a lot of excitement, especially thanks to famous celebrities who narrated popular books in early days. That really helped grow the market. But I read an article earlier this year that said it's time to move from single voice narration to multi voice productions. In other words, Korean listeners may want more dynamic drama like storytelling, not just one person reading the whole book in a flat tone. So, when it comes to audio rights, each publisher has their own policy. Some publishers still allow only a single voice narration in contracts. So, if you're discussing audiobook rights in the future, it's a good idea to check, of course, if it's a single or multi voice, and also if multi voice narration is possible. And also, if you can allow it, it may open up more creative options for Korean partners. So let's talk about top trade publishing publishers in Korea. These are some of the top publishers in Korea, and literary houses are like Changbi, Minamsa, and Munakdongnae are well known and respected. Oh, please note that it's not only for adult title books, but also children's books. They are all mixed up. On the more commercial side, publishers like Book 21 and Wisdom House cover a wide range of genres. And it's always very helpful to understand which publisher is best with your content. But if you're not, you don't know where to start, I just really recommend contacting Korean agencies just like mine, because with the larger publishing houses or those with English websites, it's very easy to reach out. But even for me, sometimes it's a bit hard to find the right contact person for smaller or independent publishers. So what I want to just let you know is that just keep it simple and just email a Korean agency. That's very simple. And also in Korea, there are a lot of literary agencies, especially far from than China or Japan. And most of them have strong relationships with local publishers. So they also know exactly how and which titles match which Korean clients. And when Korean publishers want to search for foreign books, we usually check Amazon. So, do you know what can be the Amazon in Korea? But don't forget there's no Amazon Korea actually in Korea, by the way. But when you travel abroad for book fairs or business trips, we all try to visit local bookstores, right? So some of you may have visited Korea before, and some may not, but you don't have to visit a country to start understanding its market. So let me just share some few helpful websites you can just check out. So there are top four book retailers and bookstores in Korea. One is Kyobo Bookstore. And Yes24, this is the largest online bookstore in Korea. And Aladdin and Yongpung Bookstore. But if you just want to choose two things, for example, just try to visit Kyobo and Yes24. And even if you don't read Korean, it doesn't matter because you have Google to translate. So it can really helpful for you to understand what Korean readers are looking for. And here's my best part because I really love independent bookstores in Korea. There are so many independent bookstores, and they have become more than just places to buy books. They are now community spaces and culture hubs and platforms for storytelling. Many people, these bookstores, many of these bookstores focus on created themes such as feminism, mental health, or poetry, or some other local stories. So they are often run by writers or artists or activists, and they host everything from book readings to like small exhibitions and workshops. And let me introduce three of them just in case you are looking for places to visit when you come to Korea. So first is Pyeongsan Cheokbang, and can you believe there's a bookstore run by a former Korean president? So, but not the one who was impeached 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's actually run by President Moon Jae-in, and he's really a strong supporter of the publishing industry. So many people from the field, publishers, authors, illustrators, both Korean and international, often visit this bookstore. And this year, this bookstore will be also participating in the Seoul International Book Fair. So I think that's gonna be one of the highlight stands to check out. And now I'd like to show show you some photos. And I think you can also spot me here in the photos. Here is Story Summer Bookstore, and this bookstore is one of the best well-known independent bookstores in Korea, as it was listed in 150 bookstores you must visit before you die by Belgian publishers Lanu. And also, I visited this bookstore last December. I love their curation. So let me show you some photos as well. This is in the Jeju Island in the south, so it's really beautiful. So if you have any chance to visit this area, you must go there. And the last one is Sachungi Bookstore. It's a bookstore dedicated to children's and young adult literature. Unlike the first two bookstores I mentioned, which are outside of Seoul, so this bookstore is in Seoul, so I think it can be very easy to visit. They often collaborate with children's book publishers and organize events for kids and families. So if you work in the children's book field, I highly recommend stopping by this place. And voila, some photos. So thank you so much for listening. I really hope this session helped you understand the Korean publishing market, even it's just a little. So it was truly a pleasure for me to present my country's market to you. So now let's move on to the Q&A session. So if you have any other questions, just drop them in the chat.
Thank you so much. That was a great presentation. And now we'll open the floor for questions, as you said. So everyone, please feel free to leave your questions either in the Q&A. And I see that someone has yes, their hands raised. So I'm going to try to give the mic on to you. I'm not sure if it's gonna work. There you go. You should be good to go, Mahia.
Bonjour, hi. I was wondering, is there any way of working, like specific way of working with agencies in Korea? Like, is there any exclusivity, or is there maybe some unwritten rules when we're working with agency? Can we work with different ones, and are they covering most of the territory, or? Yeah, so that was more about that.
Oh no no. For Korea, actually there are so many agencies. So like we usually work on a non-exclusive basis. But for the UK or the US countries, for example, they prefer to have an exclusive agent, but depends on the publishers as well. So it's just up to you. So if you want to like have your own exclusive agency, so you can just find them, but like every agency has their different style, and then it can depend on, I mean, your preferred agents.
And could you recommend any agencies, please?
So I would love to recommend my agency.
Okay.
And yes, let me just give you some. There are four biggest agencies in Korea. So Shinon, our agency, is the longest running literary agency. So Shinwon. So you can just
Could you
write. Um,
could you write it in the chat?
yes, I will do that.
Thank you. Thank you for all these answers.
Can you see that?
No.
No.
I think you're sending it to hosts and panelists, Jung. So if you want to switch to everyone, then everyone would be able to see. Or I would just copy and paste what you
Yeah, the thing is, there's no like, I can't see all.
Okay, that's all right. So if you want to just type all the four of them, I'll copy and paste it
Okay,
so everyone can see.
so these are four biggest agencies in Korea, but it doesn't mean you need to go with big agencies as well, because like every agent has their different style of working. So just have meetings together. Oh, Sienna Joe Agency, yes.
Thank you for sharing, Emily. So for
Mm-hmm.
those of you who are not seeing the chat, Emily Fergo from ICW said that they work with an agent in Korea, Sienna Joe Agency, who is wonderful. So that is great to know. And Mahiev, Junon's agency is the first one, so Shinwon. And we also have the Trade Commissioner Service of the Embassy of Canada in Seoul here with us today in the webinar. And they just messaged me also to let everyone know that we can contact them to get in contact with local book copyright
Mm-hmm.
agencies. So getting in touch with the Trade Commissioner Service would also be an option there. Everyone will receive an email after this webinar with the recording once it is finished. So I can also direct you to Jinwon's email, but also the Trade Commissioner Services email.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Please feel free to raise your hand and then I'll unmute you as an attendee, or feel free to type your questions into the Q&A or send them directly to me if you would want to ask them anonymously. And while we're waiting, I'll just ask a couple questions. Oh, Diane wants to speak as well. There you go. You're free to ask your question.
What is a web novel?
Can you hear me?
Ha yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Hi, Jian. Is that how you say your name?
Oh, your pronunciation is perfect, actually.
Well, I've spent time in Seoul, so I I I am very I love Korea, and I'm
Oh,
just
thank you.
wondering if
Mm-hmm.
you could give us kind of a snapshot of Korean sensitivities in terms of, are they interested in the environment? I guess that would be my question. And what is the spirituality of most Koreans? So just those two questions.
So one is if we are interested in the environment.
Yeah. And nature, I guess. Is that
Yes,
a yeah.
yeah, for sure. And also is it related to kind of climate change or just like
Yes.
gardening, or if you talk
No, it
about
would
the
be,
nature?
yeah, I guess it would be the global impact. And
Yes,
I
for
think,
sure.
yeah, and Korea is surrounded by ocean, am I correct? So
That's so
you
true. Yes. And
yeah, so people would see the impact on the water levels and things like that.
that's so true. And we we have many issues with climate change, because like it snows a lot in the winter, massive. It's
Yep.
really, really cold. It's even it's getting really, really cold. And
Is
also in the summer,
really.
it's getting too hot.
Yep.
So yeah, and also we are expected that this summer in Korea usually it starts from July, but it was expected that from April to November, that's gonna be our summer this time.
Really. April to November. Wow.
Yes, but the problem is last Saturday it snowed. So the weather is so bizarre. So yeah, for sure, climate change, that's very important, critical topic for the Korean market as well.
Because where I was going with this is you mentioned like I am an indigenous publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And so you said that might be too narrow of a niche, I guess. But indigenous people here are very interested in, Mother Earth and I guess being kind to Mother Earth and in terms of averting
Mm-hmm.
climate change and the environment. So would something like that be of interest, I guess?
Yeah, for sure. Because we
Yeah.
are always like interested in environment, nature. So the thing is, it can depend on how the stories goes. So
Yeah, I understand.
so yeah, that the topic that you mentioned is always open to the Korean market.
Yeah. Okay, so a beautifully illustrated book about connecting with Mother Earth or something like that would probably be welcomed, I guess, or
Yes,
maybe,
for sure.
yeah, yeah, it would do all right. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also got a question on the Q&A. What is a web novel?
Web novel is how do I say? There's a platform that actually started from many users. They just start writing a novel. It's not an expert novel list before, but it's just like novel on web. So it's a bit, it's not that different now, but before it was a bit different because like normally it's a novel, but like it's not a novel that we can find in the bookstores.
So it would be more independently published, like self-publishing, but online. So not your traditional kind of publishing.
Yeah, and then there are many web novel and webtoon platforms. So they just upload that novel, and if it's really getting popular, and then they publish in printed edition as well.
Thank you. And thank you, Brigitte, for your question. We received another question in the chat. Are there any sensitive subjects you would recommend to avoid in the selection of books we want to present to the Korean market?
Sensitive subjects. Not really, but I'd say we are open to every genres and depends on the publishers. But LGBTQ is a bit still a bit hard for our market. But that doesn't mean that we we aren't open to that topic. So some indie or independent publishers publish um the kind of books, but for in general is still a bit difficult.
Thank you. And Brigitte just wants to clarify the web novel response that you gave. So it would be similar to Wattpad. I don't know if you have
That's a
what.
true
Yeah.
Wattpad.
Okay.
Yes,
All
that's
right.
totally same. Yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah.
Thank you. And we also got an anonymous question. Given that it was mentioned that the viral factor and marketability are very important for the success of books in Korea, what are some of the ways Canadian writers can gain visibility in Korea without being able to participate in book markets and festivals in the country?
Mm. Um, that's a really good question. I'd say, to be honest, if writers are very open to Korean culture, for example, and then that's gonna be huge success in Korea. So actually, normally Koreans are very open to someone who, how do I say, who are very open to our culture, you know. So I think it can be one of the good ideas for viral things. I'm not sure if this my answer is helpful to you, but if you can leave your contact, and then I will um consider it again and then let you know.
Thank you for your answer. Does anyone else have any other questions? Again, feel free to use the Q&A function. Yeah, we received someone else's question. Are there any particular subjects or themes that you are seeing children's publishers looking for right now?
And I know Danielle, so hi first. Particular subjects or themes that seeing children's publishers. Um, Actually, every time I ask this question to my Korean publishers just before having meetings together, but normally for picture books, everything. But there are many sometimes they don't look for books about kind of say with a negative topic such as death or depression. So yeah, that kind of things. But normally it depends on the publishers, of course. So if the illustrations are really great with a beautiful story, that's gonna be work. And for nonfiction, um, I think because it's really hard time for publishing industry at the moment. Because it's not related political things, but like just after the martial law last December, the book sales dropped out. So many people, like many publishers, suffer from the sales. And then also the I explained before with the exchange rate is so like US dollars, so other currencies really expensive now. So they are just being selective when they choose the books. So for nonfiction books, they some general topics such as science, math, you know, that kind of simple topics, that's gonna be work now. But I see at the moment there are so many nonfiction titles focusing on some specific topic like cats or sharks, but it doesn't that work for the Korean market, I can say.
Thank you, and thank you, Danielle, for your question. Um, Someone else asked, are there any other international book fairs other than Seoul that Korean publishers like to attend throughout the year?
Yeah. And for adults books, London and Frankfurt, of course. And children's publishers, Bologna, massive. And this year there was a Korean pavilion, and there were 40 Korean publishers having a stand this time. So now Korean publishers are eager to sell the rights as well. So they still look for foreign books, but also they would like to sell the rights to their books. So that I think that's one of the reasons why there are more Korean publishers attending the other international book fairs.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions, but I'll give everyone another chance um, to ask any questions before we start wrapping up. And again, you see on the screen here, Jion's email. We will also send you a note after the webinar. So if you think of anything else afterwards, then you have a chance to ask them directly as well. We have another question. Are the literary scouts work on the market? So does literary scouts work in the Korean market?
I think it's more literary agents who are working as literary scouts for Korean publishers as well. So if you try to contact Korean agencies, that's gonna be work.
Thank you. And Jenny, if you don't mind passing on to the next slide, I'll just share with everyone a little survey that we have for feedback on the webinar. So please feel free to share any comments, and you can also reach out to me via email. I believe everyone who is here attending the webinar communicates with me regularly enough that everyone should have my email, but I will leave it in the chat as well. We would love to hear everyone's feedback.
I also just wanted to mention that I can also speak French. So if you prefer to speak in French, just don't hesitate to email me in French. It doesn't matter.
That is great.
Oh, there's another question. When will Shinhan Agency be active and in business? We are still very active in business, so if you have any other questions, or just let me know. Now it's very busy time just because it's just after the Bologna Book Fair, and also there was London Book Fair in March. So, and also there is Seoul International Book Fair in June. So actually every month is very busy period.
Okay, wonderful. And if we don't have any more questions, I'll give everyone back a couple of extra minutes of their time and start wrapping up. Gian, if you don't mind passing on to the next slide. As we now come to the end of the webinar, I'd like to thank Tion once again for providing us with this excellent overview of the opportunities and challenges in the South Korean book market. I also extend our thanks to the interpreters who have provided an invaluable service for us today. And last but not least, I'd also like to thank all of you for being here with us, as well as the Can Export and the Canada Book Fund for the financial support for this event. So have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Merci.
Thank you so much.